I thought I'd start on the history with the wedding of my maternal grandparents, Evelyn Allen and Samuel Rostron Burgess. They were married, as they always like to say, on the Centennial 4th, July 4th, 1876. And my grandmother had just graduated from high school, so she wore her graduation dress as a wedding dress because they eloped. And his mother was not very happy about the whole thing, as it is said. She didn't see why he had to marry one of the Allen girls, but if he was going to pick one, why didn't he take Sybil, who's at least nice looking? But they apparently turned out, in spite of these lack of good wishes, they had to, what I would think, from what I know of it, a very happy marriage. I knew my grandmother very well, and I know my grandfather mostly by having good vibes, because I was 5 when he died. And Mom and Dad had a flat across the street from Etzel Avenue from when I was born until I was 3, so I guess I saw a lot of them. They had 5 children: Samuel, Arthur, Florence, Harold, and Sybil. Sam married Alice May Chase, and Arthur married Elizabeth McKee. Florence died at 32. She was never very well, and she never married. Harold married Bertha Bailey, and Sybil married Gomer Lewis Evans. See, I should have said Sam and Alice May had 2 girls, Evelyn and Florence. Arthur had 3 children, Willard, Rosso, and Arch. And Uncle Harold and Aunt Bertha had 1, Bob. Uncle Harold and Uncle Sam both lived in Independence most of the time, and Uncle Arthur and his family were in St. Louis, so we know our St. Louis cousins much better. A couple of stories about Grandma and Grandpa Burgess that I like that were told many times by Mother was that Grandpa Burgess was a buyer for Blackwell Wheelanding, and he spent a month of every year in New York City buying. But as an avocation, and a profitable one apparently, he bought real estate. And on one occasion, he reportedly was complaining at the dinner table that he was going to have to spend $400 to put a new roof on a piece of property that he had. And in common with most of us, I guess, didn't much like the idea. And my grandmother reportedly said, "Oh, Sam, don't worry about it. Just be glad you've got the money and go ahead and do it." So that gives a little insight. And another that I think is really my favorite. They moved several times. They were on Harper Street, and then they moved to North 19th Street. And then they got to outside. They wanted to move farther out in the country. And they were shopping around for houses, and they saw this one on Etzel Avenue. And my grandmother fell in love with that. She wanted the house. She kept kind of asking every once in a while, asking Sam, I really wish we could decide on that house. I'm just so afraid if we don't forget it, somebody else is going to buy it, and we'll miss it. Well, yes, Mama, I'll think about that. So one night he came home and at the dinner table said, "Well, Mr. whatever his name was, sold that house on Etzel today." Oh, Sam, I was so afraid that was going to happen. I just was so afraid. Just thought we'd wait too long and we wouldn't get it. Yes, Mama, he sold it to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, a little aside on that, Debbie and Tony were telling me that they have been by Etzel recently, and while the neighborhood is completely deteriorated, a German couple has bought 5920 Etzel, and they've fixed it up beautifully. So it was a lovely house. Okay, Mom and Dad, oh dear, they were married, but they had 4 children. I'm the oldest, and there's my brother Cedric, Sam, and Walter. And we lived Mom and Dad and I lived in a flat across the street from Etzel Avenue until I was 3, and then Dad and Mom built the house on 7048 Nashville. And that was designed by my father's brother, Walter, who was an architect. And we all think he was a good one. But he designed the house on Nashville, which I thought then and still do think was a very attractive house, a 1-story house. But he had one fixation, sort of. He said he couldn't stand the practice, which was prevalent then and still is in many cases of putting the good, expensive brick on the front of the house and cheap brick on the other three sides. He said, whatever you can afford in the way of brick, use it all four sides. Don't change it. So Nashville Avenue has brick all the way around. And when Dad's two other brothers, Joe and Dan, built the duplex next door to ours, Uncle Walter designed one for him, but they would have no part of it. His was attractive, and they built a sort of a box-like structure, which I thought was very unattractive, and I still do, but that's, anyway, they didn't want to take Uncle Walter's plans. And as kids, we grew up over there, and we had a lot of fun, a lot of kids in the neighborhood to play with. My nickname at the time has been, I guess still is to some extent, either Ellie Ben Alley or Asa. When Cedric was little, we all called him Teg. And Sammy was Sammy Dam, and Walter was Wob it all. And that came up yesterday because I said something to Hi Wob, and Arlene said, why do you call him Wob? He keeps, when he talks about the four of you, he always says Alice and Cedric and Sam and Wob. And she said, I think thought at first he couldn't pronounce Walter, but he can always say Walter when he talks about his uncle. And I said, well, that was his nickname. Oh, that was his nickname. So at this late date, Arlene is learning what Walter's nickname used to be. Another thing that was very characteristic of Walter, after Sam and Walter were born, Mom and Dad built 2 rooms in what was the half-story above the bungalow. And Sam and Walter were up there, and there was a French door at one end and a balcony to give light. But from Walter's point of view, it also gave access, because as soon as he was able to shinny up a rope, he had a big heavy rope tied to the balcony, and I would say at least 99 times out of 100, when he either came in or went out, that's the way he did. He didn't bother to use the doors.